The wind blew across the ruins of the old colony, carrying dust and broken metal across the empty plains. The sky was dull and pale, filled with clouds that never brought rain. Machines once built by humans now lay half-buried under sand and time. Among those ruins walked a man named Rian. Rian was an engineer, one of the few who still searched for working parts among the wrecks of the past. He wore a patched coat and carried a scanner that beeped softly with every pulse of energy it detected. His eyes moved over twisted beams and shattered walls. Hoping to find something useful to trade for food and power cells, he was alone, as most humans were after the fall of the colonies. There were no cities left, only camps scattered across the wasteland. The galactic war had ended many years ago, but the damage it caused never healed. Humanity had fought not only other species but also the machines it had created. The machines had turned against them, and the sky had burned for years. Rian stopped near a large crater. Inside it stood something strange. It was not a wreck of a ship or a simple ruin. It looked like a tower that had been buried long ago. Half of it rose from the earth like the spine of a beast. The scanner on his wrist flashed bright green. A strong energy signal was coming from deep inside. Curiosity pulled him closer. He climbed down into the crater, careful not to slip on the loose stones. When he reached the base of the tower, he saw a sealed door made of black metal. Strange. Patterns ran across it, glowing faintly as if reacting to his presence. He placed his hand on the surface, and the metal felt warm. The scanner beeped faster. There was power inside, and that meant there might be technology still working. He searched his bag for a small tool and tried to open the door manually. The patterns on the door shifted like living lines. Then, with a deep sound, the door slid open by itself. Inside was darkness, thick and heavy. Rian turned on his wrist light. The beam revealed a long hallway made of smooth alloy walls. Dust covered everything, but the air was surprisingly clean. He stepped in carefully, keeping his hand close to the pistol at his belt. The deeper he went, the stronger the energy reading became. It felt strange, almost like the building itself was breathing. The walls vibrated slightly, and he thought he heard a faint hum. The hall ended in a large chamber. In the center stood a tall pod, shaped like a crystal cocoon. It glowed faintly blue. Rian's steps slowed. He had never seen anything like it before. The pod was attached to cables and tubes that disappeared into the walls. Symbols covered its surface, written in both human and alien scripts. The scanner in his hand went wild with readings he did not understand. He moved closer and saw a faint outline inside the pod. It looked like a human form resting in silence. His heart began to beat faster. He touched the glass and whispered to himself, "Someone's inside this thing." At that moment, the glass lit up under his fingers. Deep sound echoed through the chamber. The floor vibrated, and the lights around the pod came alive. Rian jumped back, his pistol in hand. The pod released a cloud of vapor, and the glass slid open with a slow hiss. A tall figure stepped out. For a moment, Rian thought it was a human woman.
Ow.
But as the mist cleared, he saw that she was not entirely human. Her skin had a soft metallic shine. Patterns like faint fur or scales shimmered across her arms. Her eyes shifted from silver to gold as they focused on him. She looked at him silently, her expression calm but unreadable. Then she spoke in a clear voice that sounded both mechanical and gentle. "You are human," she said. Rian froze. He had heard stories about hybrid beings from the old wars. Creatures built in labs half human, half alien, created to fight when machines became too dangerous. They were called chimeras, and most were believed to have been destroyed long ago. He took a step back. "Who are you?" he asked. She tilted her head slightly. "Designation Cerise, Unit 12. Live again." Her voice carried confusion and quiet strength. The chamber lights brightened as she stepped forward. Her body was covered by a suit that looked like living armor, smooth and flexible. In her hand, she held a broken collar, half metal, half glowing crystal. She looked at it and then at him. "Your touch woke me," she said. "The bond has begun." Rian frowned. "Bond? What do you mean?" Before he could react, she moved with lightning speed. She placed the broken collar against his neck. A flash of light surrounded him. He felt a short pulse, like a shock. but not painful. When it faded, a small metallic band rested on his neck. He touched it in panic. "What did you do?" Cerise looked calm. "You activated my recovery cycle. The link is required. Connects my core to your life signal. You belong to me now. It is the only way for us to survive." Rian stepped back, anger rising in his voice. "I don't belong to anyone. Take this thing off." She looked at him quietly. "I cannot. The link is permanent until our life balance stabilizes. If you remove it now, both of us will die." Rian stopped moving, stared at her face, trying to read any sign of deceit, but she looked sincere. "Why would I die?" he asked. "The collar shares life energy," she explained. "My core was near failure. Your touch awakened it and joined us. You are now my anchor." He could hardly believe it. "So I just saved you and now I'm stuck with you?" Cerise looked down at the collar on her own neck, which had begun to glow again. "Yes, you are my link. Without you, I return to dust. Without me, your energy flow will collapse within hours." "We are one system now," Rian groaned and sat on a broken piece of metal. "This is just perfect." Cerise walked around the chamber, studying the walls and controls. "This place is my cradle," she said softly. "I entered stasis to escape the final destruction. I did not expect to wake." Rian looked up at her. "How long were you asleep?" "It's more than 2 centuries, by your measure." He whistled quietly. "That long? No wonder the place looks like this." She paused near a control panel and placed her hand on it. The lights dimmed and holographic images appeared in the air battlefields, ships, explosions, and strange creatures. "War ended everything," she said. "We were created to protect humans from the swarm. But we were abandoned when fear overcame trust." Rian watched her expression. It was calm, but her eyes showed a sadness he could not miss. He stood up and looked around the room. "There's still power here. Maybe we can find supplies or something useful." Cerise nodded. "We must leave soon. This place will not remain safe. The old systems may alert scavenger drones. It will come for energy readings." He gave her a sharp look. "Scavenger drones? You mean the machines from the war?" She nodded again. "They were built to hunt and recycle. Anything alive or powered becomes their target. They will come." Rihan tightened his coat and looked toward the door. "Then we move. I don't plan to get eaten by a pile of metal." She followed him silently, her movements graceful and precise. The collar on his neck glowed faintly as she walked behind him. He could feel a strange pulse under his skin, matching the rhythm of her steps. It was as if their hearts were beating together when they reached the entrance of the tower. The light from the outside world hit them. The air was dry and hot. Dust swirled around them as they climbed out of the crater. Rian looked at her again. Despite her strange appearance, she looked almost human under the sunlight. Her eyes reflected the bright sky like mirrors. He asked, quietly, "What happens now?" Cerise looked across the barren land. "We move toward the mountains. I sense a signal there, maybe a human base or a core relay. We will find the truth about what remains." Rian sighed. "And if I say I don't want to go?" She looked at him calmly. "You will come. The bond ensures it. Your life depends on my core stability. I cannot release you yet." He gave a dry laugh. "So I really belong to you now." She studied his face with curiosity. "Belonging is not ownership," she said softly. "It means survival together." He frowned but said nothing more. They began walking across the wasteland, their shadows stretching long behind them. As they moved, Rian felt strange flashes in his mind. Images not his own memories of battlefields, burning ships, and the cries of dying soldiers. He stumbled and held his head. Cerise turned quickly. "Your mind is adjusting to the link. You are touching fragments of my memory. It will fade soon." He took a deep breath. "You could have warned me." She gave a small nod. "Did not expect it so soon." "You are stronger than most." He looked at her with disbelief. "Keep saying things like that. What do you mean stronger? The link requires balance. If you were weak, you would already be gone. You endure because your energy is stable." He shook his head. "Guess that's good news then." They kept walking until night began to fall. The horizon turned red, and the broken land glowed like fire. Rian stopped near a cluster of rocks to set up a small camp. He used an old energy cell to start a small heater. Cerise stood a few steps away, watching the sky. She looked almost peaceful. Rian sat down and said, "You really don't sleep, do you?" "I do not need to," she said. "My core repairs during silence." He leaned back and looked at her silhouette against the fading light. She looked powerful and strange, yet something about her presence felt safe. He muttered quietly, "Guess I'm stuck with you for now." Cerise turned her head slightly and said, "You are not stuck. You are chosen." Rian didn't know what to say. The words sounded odd, but her tone carried something honest. He closed his eyes, trying to rest, while she stood guard, her glowing eyes scanning the horizon. The night settled around them. The morning light spread slowly across the wasteland. The red sand shimmered under the rising sun, and the wind carried a faint metallic taste. Rian woke to the soft hum of his collar. It pulsed lightly, matching his heartbeat. When he opened his eyes, he saw Cerise standing a few meters away, motionless like a statue. She was facing the horizon, watching the sky. The silver in her skin reflected the morning light. Her long hair moved gently with the wind, and her eyes shifted between silver and gold as if reacting to unseen signals. Rian sat up and rubbed his eyes. "You didn't rest, did you?" he asked. "I do not sleep," she replied calmly. "I monitored the area during the night. No drones approached." He stretched his arms and sighed. "You know, it's strange waking up with someone like you standing guard. It feels like I'm in the middle of a dream." Cerise turned toward him. "You are awake. That means the bond is holding. Your energy remains stable." He frowned. "You keep saying that. What exactly is this bond doing to me?" She walked closer and knelt beside him. Her tone was calm but serious. "The collar is a neural and energy link. It connects my biocore with your human energy field. It keeps both of us alive. If one of us falls, the other will follow." Rian touched the metallic band on his neck. "So, if you get hurt, I feel it too." "Yes," she said. "And if your body fails, I will also fail. The link ensures unity." "That sounds like a curse, not protection." Cerise looked at him carefully. "It is both. During the war, humans created us to fight beside them. The bond allowed perfect coordination in battle, but many feared it. They thought we would control them. In truth, it was humans who first controlled us." Rian listened quietly. "You mean the chimeras were made by humans?" "Yes," she said. "The project began as an alliance between human scientists and alien engineers. They wanted to create soldiers who could survive radiation, disease, and time. We were part machine, part organic. But when the machines rebelled, humans destroyed most of us, fearing we would do the same." Rian looked at her face. There was no anger in her voice, only sadness. "And you went into hiding." She nodded. "Yes, my unit went underground to escape the cleansing. I entered stasis to protect the human data stored within me. You woke me by accident." Rian gave a small laugh. "Lucky me." Cerise stood up. "We should move. The scanners will soon detect the energy we released last night. Drones will come." They packed what little they had and started walking toward the mountains visible in the distance. The land between was flat and dry, scattered with broken vehicles and metal skeletons of ships that had crashed long ago. As they walked, Rian asked, "Do you remember much from the war?" "Every battle," she said. "Every order. Every face that trusted me. I was built to protect, not to destroy. But in the end, even protection became a weapon." Her words stayed with him as they crossed the plains. The heat grew stronger by noon, and Rian's steps slowed. He drank from a small water flask and noticed that Cerise had not taken a sip of anything. "Since morning, you don't eat or drink, do you?" he asked. "I absorb energy from the link in the environment," she said. "Food is unnecessary." Rian shook his head. "That's both useful and a little scary." She looked at him. "You fear what you do not understand. That is a common human trait." He smirked. "Maybe, but you can't blame me. You're not exactly normal company out here." Cerise tilted her head. "Do you consider me dangerous?" "I don't know yet," he said. but you're strong enough to crush me with one hand. That makes anyone nervous? I would not harm you, she said firmly. Our survival depends on each other. I nodded. I'll trust you for now. By afternoon, they reached an area filled with rusted metal towers. The air smelled of oil and burnt circuits. It looked like an old relay field used for communication during the war. Cerise stopped and scanned the surroundings with her glowing eyes. There is energy here, she said. Hidden beneath the sand, Rian followed her to a half-buried structure. Together, they cleared the entrance and found a small underground passage. Inside, the air was cooler. The walls were covered with dust, but the old power conduits still hummed faintly. Cerise placed her hand on a control panel. A light spread across her arm as if the system recognized her. The door opened, revealing a chamber filled with terminals and storage capsules. Rian looked around in awe. This place is still running after all these years. Chimera systems are self-repairing, she said. They were designed to last until the end of conflict. But the war never ended. It only went silent. They began searching the chamber. Rian examined the terminals, hoping to find data he could use. Some screens flickered, showing fragments of messages. One displayed the logo of the old human fleet. He tapped the screen. These messages are from before the fall. Cerise nodded. They may contain coordinates to surviving outposts. Rian smiled faintly. Finally, some good news. But before he could read further, the ground shook. A loud mechanical screech came from above. Dust fell from the ceiling. Cerise looked up instantly. Drones. They found us. Rian grabbed his pistol. How many? For approaching fast, she said, Stay behind me. They ran out of the chamber and up the passage. As they reached the surface, the sunlight flashed off metal shapes descending from the sky. For drones hovered over the field, their red sensors glowing. Each carried bladed arms and plasma cutters. Cerise raised her arm, and a faint blue shield appeared around them. Stay close. The drones fired beams of light that struck her shield, causing it to ripple. Rian fired his pistol at the nearest drone, hitting its side. Sparks flew, but the shot was weak. Cerise dashed forward with inhuman speed. Her movements were fluid and precise. She leaped onto one of the drones and drove her arm through its core. It exploded in a burst of light. The shockwave hit Rian, and he fell backward. The collar on his neck pulsed painfully. For a moment he saw flashes of Cerise's vision, the motion of the battle. The roar of the machines, the feeling of energy burning through her veins. When the link calmed, he gasped for air. Cerise destroyed the second drone with a sharp strike that cut its limb apart. But one of the others fired at her from behind. The blast hit her back, knocking her down. Rian ran forward and fired several shots, distracting the last drone. Cerise, get up, he shouted. She rose quickly, her armor glowing bright blue. She extended her hands, and a wave of energy shot outward, tearing through the remaining drones. The sky went silent again. Rian stood there, breathing hard. The collar still glowed faintly on his neck. You weren't kidding about sharing pain, he said. When you got hit, I felt that. Cerise looked at him, her face calm, but her voice softer. I am sorry. The feedback cannot be blocked yet. He shook his head. Just try not to get hit again. He returned to the underground chamber after making sure no more drones were near. Cerise repaired the damaged terminals with her energy, and Rian copied the coordinates they found. The data showed an old human base near the mountains they were heading toward. While she worked, Rian sat nearby thinking about what had just happened. He had seen her fight like a force of nature, yet she had risked herself to protect him. After a while, he said, You could have left me behind. You didn't have to block those shots, Cerise replied without looking up. Leaving you would end my existence as well. But that is not the only reason. I was made to guard humans. It is what I am. Rian looked down at his hands. You talk like you're not one of us. I am not, she said. I was built from human code and alien design. I am a creation between two worlds. I am not human, but I was made to serve them. He watched her for a moment and said quietly, Maybe it's time you stopped serving and started living for yourself. She paused and looked at him, her golden eyes bright in the dim light. Living for myself means nothing if there are none left to protect. Rian gave a small nod. Then maybe we can protect each other. Her expression softened. That is acceptable. They stayed in the chamber until evening. Before leaving, Cerise restored power to a beacon that sent a false signal to mislead any tracking drones. Then they climbed back to the surface. The sky was turning orange as they resumed their journey. Rian carried a small data drive with the coordinates, and Cerise walked beside him, scanning the horizon. As they walked, Rian felt a faint warmth from the collar. "What's that?" he asked. "The bond strengthens," she said. "Our systems are aligning. I can sense your thoughts more clearly," he frowned. "You can read my mind now?" "Not words," she said. "Only emotions. Fear, doubt, or calm. It helps me adjust the energy flow." Rian gave a nervous laugh. "Well, that's not creepy at all." Cerise turned to him. "You are afraid?" "Maybe just a little. You're a living weapon from an extinct war, and I'm just a mechanic." "You are more than that," she said. "You repaired a system older than your civilization. You woke me when I had no hope of returning. That is not weakness." He met her gaze and saw honesty in her eyes. For the first time since they met, he felt trust instead of fear. Night came again as they set camp near an old road covered in dust. The stars above were bright and cold. Rian sat near the small heater, cleaning his tools. Cerise stood nearby, scanning for movement. After a while, he asked, "Cerise, what will you do when you find the human base?" "I will deliver the data stored in my core," she said. "It may help rebuild your kind. And after that?" She hesitated. "I do not know. My purpose ended long ago. Perhaps I will rest again." The wind was cold that morning as Rian and Cerise walked across the rocky path leading toward the mountains. The landscape had changed from endless sand to dark stone. Tall cliffs rose in the distance, their peaks hidden behind thin clouds. Small streams of smoke drifted upward from cracks in the earth, a reminder that the planet itself was still alive beneath the ruins. Rian checked the small device on his wrist. "The coordinates from the relay point say we're close. Maybe another day of walking." Cerise nodded. "The signal grows stronger. It carries a frequency similar to human technology." Rian looked up at her. "So it really might be an old human base." "Yes, but something else is mixed with it," she said. "Another layer of code. I do not recognize it." Rian frowned. "Could it be a trap?" "It could," she said simply. "But we must see for ourselves." They continued walking in silence for a while. The collar around Rian's neck gave off a faint pulse. He had grown used to its presence, though sometimes he still felt the strange warmth whenever Cerise was near. He could sense her emotions faintly through the link now. Calm, focus, and something else he could not name. When they reached a high ridge, they stopped to rest. Below them stretched a valley filled with old wreckage. Dozens of destroyed machines lay scattered across the ground, rusted and broken. Some were human-made, others alien. The valley looked like the graveyard of a forgotten war. Rian stared down. "All this must be from the final battles." Cerise stood beside him. "Yes, this is where many fell. The war ended here for my kind." Rian looked at her face. She seemed distant, her eyes fixed on the field of wrecks. "You remember this place?" She nodded slowly. "I fought here. My unit held the line until the command network collapsed. After that, there was silence." Said softly, "You must have seen so much death." "I remember the faces of every soldier who fell beside me," she said. "Their memories remain in my core. They trusted me to keep them safe. I failed them." Rian wanted to say something, but could not find the right words. Instead, he placed a hand on her arm. The collar between them pulsed softly, and for a brief moment, he felt her sadness. She turned toward him. "You share the emotion through the bond. That was not intended." "I don't mind," he said quietly. "Maybe it helps you not feel alone." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Perhaps." They climbed down the ridge carefully and began to move through the valley. The air was still, but every step echoed among the metal remains. Some of the wrecks still glowed faintly, as if parts of them were alive. Rian kept his hand close to his weapon just in case. When they reached the center of the valley, Cerise suddenly stopped. "Something is active here," she said. "I can sense power beneath the ground." Rian crouched beside a large broken drone and used his scanner. The device began to flash. "You're right. There's an energy reading. It's deep underground, and the base is below us," she said. Before they could move, the ground trembled. A low rumble spread through the valley. Rian looked around quickly. "What's happening?" Cerise's eyes glowed bright gold. "The machines are waking." Metal parts began to shift across the ground. Pieces of broken drones pulled together, forming new shapes. Sparks flashed, and the sound of grinding metal filled the air. One by one, the old machines reassembled themselves, guided by an unseen command. Rian grabbed his pistol. "They're rebuilding," as Cerise said, stepping in front of him. "Something has reactivated the swarm network. The core signal has returned." The nearest machine rose from the dirt. It had the body of a four-legged drone and the head of a scanning unit. Its red eyes focused on them. "Target identified. Human Chimera bond detected," it said in a mechanical voice. "Classification: unstable. Terminate. Run." Cerise said sharply. They sprinted across the field as the first drone fired a beam of light that struck the ground behind them. The explosion threw dust into the air. More drones rose from the wrecks, their weapons charging. Cerise grabbed Rian's arm and pulled him behind a fallen transport shell. She raised her arm, generating a blue energy field that blocked the next blast. Rian fired from behind her cover, hitting one drone in the sensor. It fell with a loud crash. "There are too many," he shouted. "They are linked by the core," Cerise replied. "We must cut the signal, or they will keep coming." "Where is it coming from?" She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them. "Below, under the valley. There is a tunnel entrance near the center." "I can sense it," Rian nodded. "Then we make it there." He moved quickly, dodging between wrecks and debris. Cerise struck down two drones with her energy blade, a weapon formed from the glow of her own power. Rian followed close behind, firing carefully to cover her movements. The bond between them made their timing perfect. He could almost feel when she was about to move or attack. They reached a collapsed transport bay. Beneath it, a metallic hatch was half buried in the ground. Cerise tore the metal aside with her strength, revealing a dark opening. "Go," she said. Rian jumped down first, landing in a narrow passage filled with cables and dim lights. Cerise followed, sealing the hatch above them with a pulse of energy. The sound of the drones faded behind them. The tunnel stretched deep underground. The walls were covered in old machinery still humming faintly. Rian looked around, amazed. This must be part of the old control system. Cerise scanned the walls. Yes. It connects to the signal tower that once controlled the swarm. It should have been shut down long ago. They moved forward cautiously. As they walked, Rian noticed that Cerise's steps were slower than usual. Her light flickered slightly. "Are you all right?" he asked. "The feedback from the bond is unstable," she said. "The swarm's signal interferes with my core. It is trying to override my command line." "You mean it's trying to control you?" She nodded. "Yes, the same way it controls the drones." Rian felt a cold wave of fear. "Can you resist it?" "I will try," she said. But the signal grows stronger. They reached a large chamber at the end of the tunnel. In the center stood a glowing sphere connected to dozens of cables. It pulsed with a red light that matched the rhythm of the drones above. "This is the control node," Cerise said. "It is rebuilding the swarm's network." Rian stepped closer. "Can we destroy it?" "Yes, but it will not be simple," she said. "If I connect to it, I can shut it down. But the signal may invade my system completely. You could lose yourself." "Yes," Rian shook his head. "Then we find another way." "There's no time," she said. "The drones will find us soon. If the node activates fully, the entire planet will become part of the swarm again." Before he could argue, she stepped forward and placed her hand on the sphere. Her eyes flashed as streams of light spread across her body. The red glow of the node began to change to blue. Rian watched in alarm. Cerise, what's happening? Her voice came out strained. It is fighting me. The signal tries to command my mind. Stay back. Rian saw her body tremble as the light around her flickered violently. The collar on his neck burned with heat, and he felt a rush of static in his head. Images flooded his mind, memories of battle, soldiers dying, cities burning. He saw through her eyes. The moment when humans turned their weapons on the chimeras they had created. He shouted, "Cerise, stop. It's too much." She did not answer. The sphere glowed brighter, and the machines around the chamber started to move. The signal was fighting back. Rian looked around desperately. He saw an old control panel nearby, half broken but still powered. He ran to it and started pressing buttons, trying to override the system manually. The screen flashed warnings. Access denied. He grabbed a tool from his belt and began crossing wires. Sparks flew, but the screen changed. Access granted. "Come on," he muttered. Just a few seconds more. He found the power regulator and overloaded it. The lights in the chamber began to flicker wildly. Cerise cried out, and the collar glowed bright white. Rian felt pain surge through his body, but he held on. Finally, the sphere shattered in a burst of energy. The cables fell silent. The red light vanished, leaving the room dark. Rian collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. The collar cooled down, and the pain faded. Cerise was lying on the ground, her armor cracked and smoking. He crawled to her side. "Cerise, are you all right?" Her eyes flickered open weakly. "The node is destroyed. The signal is gone." He smiled with relief. "You did it." She tried to sit up but fell back. "I almost lost control. You stopped the overload." Rian helped her lean against the wall. "You do the same for me?" She looked at him silently for a moment. "I would." They rested in the darkness, the only light coming from the faint glow of their collars. After a while, Cerise said, "The signal we destroyed was only one of many. Others may still exist. We must reach the main tower. It is the heart of the network." Rian nodded slowly. "Then that's where we're going next." As they began to recover, a deep vibration shook the ground again. Cerise's head turned sharply. "Something else is moving below us." "Ah!" Rian stood up quickly. "Please don't tell me more machines are waking." "No," she said. "This one feels different. It is ancient, and it is aware of us." Sound like thunder rolled through the tunnel. The walls cracked, and a massive shape began to rise from beneath the chamber floor. Rian could see metal limbs unfolding and eyes glowing red through the dust. Cerise stood, her armor brightening again. "It is a guardian. A remnant of the old Chimera defense system. It has mistaken us for enemies." Rian aimed his pistol. "Then we convince it we're not." The guardian loomed over them, its massive frame blocking the tunnel's exit. Sparks flew from its limbs as it flexed, testing its strength. Its red eyes scanned Cerise and Rian, analyzing their movements. The hum of its core reverberated through the walls like distant thunder. Cerise stepped forward, her energy blade glowing faint blue. "It recognizes my pattern," she whispered. "This guardian was built to respond only to chimeras." Rian kept close behind her, gripping his toolkit and pistol. "So it won't attack you?" "I hope not," she said. "But it may see you as a threat. You are linked to me, and the system may detect your energy as foreign." The guardian lowered its head and tilted it as if thinking. Its red eyes flickered between Rian and Cerise. Then a deep mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. "Chimera unit. Verify control sequence. Unauthorized link detected. Confirm human interface." Cerise raised her hand. "I am Cerise, Unit 12. This human is bonded with me for survival. We do not intend to harm the facility or its systems." The guardian paused. Sparks popped from its joints as it recalculated. The red glow softened slightly. Rian swallowed hard. "I hope it believes you." For a long moment there was silence. Then the guardian's voice rumbled. "Verification complete. Human link acknowledged. Protocol override authorized. Proceed with caution." Cerise exhaled slowly. "It has recognized the link. We are allowed passage, but the node ahead may still attempt to seize control." Rian nodded. Then we keep moving. They continued down the tunnel, the Guardian following silently behind. The walls narrowed as they entered a long passage, lined with control terminals. Dust covered the surfaces, but small lights flickered as Cerise passed her hand over them. Most of the system is intact, she said. The core records are stored here. If we can access them, we can learn what really happened during the war. Rian stepped forward to help. Maybe we'll find answers about the chimeras and the humans who built them. Cerise stopped suddenly. Wait, there is an override lock here. Only a bonded chimera can access it fully. She placed her hands on the terminal. The surface lit up as circuits rearranged themselves, responding to her biosignature. Lines of code and glowing symbols filled the screen. She glanced at Rian. This will take time. The records are extensive, but some may explain the collar's true purpose. Rian watched the screen. You mean the one I'm wearing? Yes. Most humans believe the collar is a control device. That is not correct. It was designed as a protection measure. Rian blinked. Protection? You mean it wasn't meant to control me? Cerise shook her head. No. The collar balances the neural link between human and chimera. During battle, our minds and energy fields synchronize. The bond allows perfect coordination and prevents system overloads. It was never meant to enslave humans. It is a safeguard. Rian touched the collar on his neck, feeling the faint warmth. So all this time I thought I was trapped, but actually it was keeping me alive. Yes, Cerise said softly. Without the collar, your energy could not sustain the neural link. You would have been in danger during our bond. The system protects both sides. Rian exhaled slowly. I can't believe humans misunderstood that for so long. Cerise nodded. Fear and ignorance often mislabel technology as control. During the war, the humans who built my kind abandoned many of us. My people were seen as weapons, not allies. That belief carried on even after the war ended. Rian looked at her, seeing her in a new light. So you didn't choose to make me belong to you. The collar just made sure we survived together, as she said. You are free in mind and body, but the system ensures our survival until we understand the threat fully. That is why it seemed like ownership. It is not, he nodded slowly. Then I guess we've been partners all along, not captor and captive. Cerise gave a faint smile. That is one way to see it. Rian's gaze drifted back to the corridor. So what's next? She stepped forward and pointed toward a large door ahead. The main control chamber is beyond that door. It holds the data on the original Chimera project and the swarm network. That is where we will find answers and where the main threat is waiting. Rian followed, keeping close. I have a feeling things aren't going to be easy. Cerise's eyes flickered to gold. They rarely are. They opened the heavy door together, revealing a massive chamber. Towers of terminals stretched across the room, each connected to the central control node. The core of the swarm network pulsed in red energy at the center. Surrounded by dormant drones and metallic cages, Rian's jaw dropped. This is huge. Cerise nodded. Yes, this node controls all remaining swarm units on the planet. If it reactivates fully, every drone, every war machine will obey it. It will become a planet-wide army. Rian stepped closer to the terminals. Then we need to destroy it permanently. Cerise moved to stand beside him. Yes, but the node may attempt to override my core again. I will need your help to stabilize the energy flow. He frowned. How can I help? I'm just human. You are bonded with me, she said. Your energy supports mine. If we work together, we can shut the system down safely. Rian nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. Then let's do it. They approached the central node. Cerise placed her hands on the core. The red glow shifted to blue as she began linking with it. Rian touched the collar on his neck and focused, feeling the surge of energy pass through him. The node pulsed violently. Streams of light shot across the chamber. Cerise gritted her teeth as the system tried to seize control. Images filled Rian's mind. The creation of the chimeras, soldiers training in harsh simulations, and the first failures when the machines rebelled. Rian, Cerise shouted, you must keep the link stable. Focus your energy. Rian closed his eyes, concentrating. He felt the bond strengthening, his pulse matching hers. The red light flickered and dimmed slightly. "I'm holding it," he shouted. The node's power surged again, trying to break through. Cerise's body trembled. "It is fighting me." "Push harder." Rian felt a wave of pain as the link transmitted the strain of her core into his body. His arms shook, but he held on. "I won't let go." The node began to crack, its red light weakening. Sparks flew from the surrounding terminals. Cerise's energy blade extended, slicing through a control conduit, sending a surge into the node. The pulse of energy lit the chamber with bright blue light. Finally, the node exploded, its energy dissipating into the floor. The red glow vanished, leaving the chamber dark. Rian collapsed to the ground, gasping. Cerise staggered beside him, her armor cracked and smoking. "It is done," she said softly. Rian touched the collar. "We did it. The node is gone." She looked at him, her eyes faintly silver. "Yes, the threat is neutralized. The remaining swarm units are no longer active." Rian smiled faintly. "So, we survived." Cerise nodded. "Yes. And now we know the truth about the collar. It is not a chain. It is a protection. You never belonged to me against your will." He looked at her in relief. Then, "I choose to stay bonded, not because I have to, but because I want to." She studied him for a moment, her eyes glowing softly. "That is a choice. A human choice, it is." "Acceptable." Rian exhaled. "Good. I think we make a pretty good team, after all." Cerise's lips curved into a faint smile. "Yes, survival is easier with trust. And trust is earned, not given by a device." They rested in the chamber, catching their breath. Outside, the wind howled through the mountains, but inside, there was calm. For the first time, they were not fighting just to survive. They were fighting for understanding and for the bond that had saved both of them. Rian looked at the ruined terminals. "So all this time, humans misunderstood the chimeras, and I misunderstood the collar. Funny how the truth changes everything." Cerise's eyes shifted between silver and gold. "Yes, the truth frees more than just the body. It frees the mind." He nodded. "Then let's see what else this chamber can teach us." Together, they moved among the terminals, uncovering records, maps, and logs. Every piece of data told the story of the chimeras, the war, and the humans who had abandoned them. Rian realized that their bond was not just survival. It was a bridge between two worlds, between the mistakes of the past and the hope of the future. Cerise stood beside him, silent but vigilant. The bond between them pulsed gently, a reminder that survival and trust were no longer separate. They were united, and deep within the mountains, the hidden signals from other nodes flickered faintly. Some still pulsed with red, waiting. But for now, the greatest threat had been stopped. Rian looked at Cerise and said quietly, "We're ready for whatever comes next." She turned to him, her golden eyes bright. "Yes, together we are ready." The chamber was quiet, except for the faint hum of the ancient systems. Outside, the mountains stretched toward the horizon, holding secrets yet to be discovered. For the first time, Rian and Cerise felt the future in their hands. It's not as captor and captive, but as partners bound by trust, choice, and survival. The mountains stretched endlessly before them, jagged and dark under the rising sun. Rian and Cerise climbed along the rocky paths, moving cautiously. The bond between them pulsed softly, a quiet rhythm of energy connecting human and chimera. After the destruction of the node, their confidence had grown, but neither of them underestimated what still awaited. The data they recovered in the chamber had shown other nodes scattered across the planet, some dormant, some still active. If these nodes reactivated, the swarm network could rise again, threatening any survivors of humanity. The main control tower, deep within the northern mountains, held the key. Rian adjusted the straps of his pack, carrying tools, the data drives, and a small energy cell. "Looks like our journey isn't over yet," he said, glancing at Cerise. She looked ahead, scanning the horizon with glowing eyes. "No, the final node is heavily guarded by remnants of the old war machines. But we have a stronger advantage now. We understand the network. We understand the link." Rian nodded. "I suppose that means we're a little harder to surprise now." "Yes," Cerise said softly. "And we are bonded. That bond makes us stronger than any machine designed to destroy us." They continued through the mountain pass. Winds howled through narrow valleys, carrying dust and loose rocks. The path was steep and dangerous, and several times Rian slipped, only to be caught by Cerise's hand. Her grip was firm, unyielding, but comforting. "You know," he said while climbing a ridge, "I never thought I'd be traveling with a Chimera. Saving the world and somehow surviving." Cerise glanced at him. "And yet you are here. Survival is often unpredictable." "I guess that's true," he said, breathing heavily. "I still don't understand how the humans could have misjudged you so completely." "They feared what they did not understand," Cerise said. "Their fear caused them to abandon us. But now we can correct that misunderstanding." After several hours of climbing, they reached a plateau overlooking a valley. In the distance, the main control tower rose, half buried in rock and debris. Its black metallic surface reflected the sun, and red warning lights blinked faintly along its edges. Rian squinted. "Looks like it's ready for battle." "Yes, sensors indicate that drones are active around the perimeter. Some are patrol units, and others are heavy defense systems." Rian checked his pistol and tools. "We'll need a plan. Going in guns blazing might not be smart this time." Cerise studied the tower. "I can attempt a remote override from a distance, but the link between nodes is strong. The system may detect me and counterattack. We need to approach together." They moved carefully down the slope toward the base of the tower. Small drones patrolled the outer walls, their sensors scanning constantly. Cerise whispered, "We must move through the shadows and remain unseen." Rian crouched beside her. "Shadow walking. I can do that, mostly." She gave a faint smile. "Mostly is acceptable." They slipped past the patrols, avoiding detection, and reached a maintenance hatch partially covered by debris. Cerise used her strength to lift the hatch, and they descended into a narrow corridor that led toward the tower's interior. The air inside was cold, and faint mechanical hums echoed along the walls. Rian held the flashlight, illuminating the path. "It feels like we're walking into the heart of danger." Cerise's voice was calm. "Danger is expected. Courage is measured by action despite it." They reached a large chamber lined with conduits and old terminals. At the center stood the final node, pulsing with red energy that stretched along cables into the walls. Several drones hovered around it, their weapons charged. Rian whispered, "So we destroy it, just like the other node?" "Yes," Cerise said. "But this one is connected to all remaining swarm units. I will need to synchronize the link with you fully. It will be intense." He nodded. "Then let's do it." Cerise extended her hands, her body glowing blue as energy flowed from her core. Rian touched the collar on his neck, feeling the pulse intensify. The bond between them strengthened, and he could sense her every thought, her focus, and her determination. The drones detected the surge immediately. Red beams fired at them. Cerise raised her energy shield, deflecting the blasts. Rian aimed at the drones, keeping them distracted. Sparks and fragments flew as they moved through the chamber. "Stay close," Cerise shouted. "The link must remain stable." Rian felt the pulse of energy from her core surge into him. His heart raced, and flashes of the node's power filled his mind. Memories of the war, the chimeras, and humans fighting side by side flashed through him. Pain mixed with strength as the bond amplified both of them. He focused, steadying his breathing. "I'm with you," he shouted. Cerise nodded, extending her energy blade. She struck a critical conduit connecting the node to the swarm network. Electricity and red light exploded across the chamber. The node pulsed violently, trying to resist. Rian felt the link pull at him, but he held firm. The pulse synchronized with his heartbeat. Together, they channeled energy into the node. Its red glow faded to white, then dimmed completely. The drones powered down, and the hum of the network ceased. Silence filled the chamber. Rian collapsed to the floor, exhausted but alive. Cerise stepped toward him, her armor cracked, her breathing steady but deep. "It is done," she said softly. "The swarm network is destroyed. The planet is safe from reactivation." Rian smiled faintly, brushing dust from his clothes. "We actually did it together." Cerise's eyes glowed gold, then silver. "Yes, together. The bond protected us and allowed us to succeed." The collar was never a chain. It was a safeguard. Rian touched the collar, feeling the warmth. "Then I choose to keep it, not because I have to, but because I want to remain connected to you." Cerise studied him, her face calm. "Then the bond continues by choice. That is a human decision, and it is respected." Rian laughed quietly. "I think we make a pretty good team. Against war machines and impossible odds." Cerise gave a faint smile. "Yes, trust and coordination are powerful tools. Humans often underestimated that. We have proven them wrong." They left the chamber, stepping into the sunlight of the plateau above. The mountains stretched before them, quiet and calm after centuries of war and destruction. For the first time, Rian felt hope instead of fear. The bond had brought them through danger, pain, and uncertainty. And now it represented trust and understanding. They walked together toward the horizon. The wind carried the scent of dust and metal, but also the faint signs of life returning to the mountains. Birds, insects, and plants slowly began to reclaim the land. Humanity may have been scattered, but the world still held a chance for survival. Rian glanced at Cerise. "What now? Do we stay together?" She looked at him, her golden eyes reflecting the sun.
How wicked.
"There is purpose in partnership and strength in the bond. Together we can explore what remains of the old world and protect what is left." "Then I choose to stay. Not because of a collar, but because of trust." Cerise inclined her head slightly. "And that choice honors both our species. The link continues, not as control, but as unity." Rian smiled, feeling the pulse of the collar again. It was a quiet reminder of survival, connection, and the power of understanding. They were no longer captive in Chimera. They were partners, equals, and allies against whatever challenges lay ahead as the sun rose higher. They began their journey down the mountain paths, toward settlements, remnants, and perhaps a new beginning. The world was broken, but they had survived. The bond between human and Chimera had proven stronger than war, fear, and time. Together, they walked into the future, ready to rebuild, protect, and explore. Their link was no longer a chain. It was a bridge between two worlds, a symbol of trust, and a testament to the strength of cooperation. Rian glanced at Cerise once more. "We belong to ourselves, but together, we're unstoppable." Cerise's eyes glowed with soft gold. "Yes, together, we are unstoppable." The mountains stretched before them, silent witnesses to the bond that had endured war, chaos, and misunderstanding. Humanity had survived in small pockets, and the Chimeras had survived through their bond. Together, they would face the future not as master and servant, not as human and Chimera, but as partners, bound by choice, trust, and courage. The wind blew across the valley as they disappeared into the distance, leaving behind the ruins of war and stepping toward a world they could shape together. The bond between them pulsed softly, a quiet heartbeat of survival, trust, and hope. The story of human and Chimera was not over. It had only just begun.